Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Maker That Money, right here live on the YouTubes, 9 a.m. Pacific time, just about every Friday. I am Pooch of Repkord. With me, as always, it's good to have you back, my friend, Mr. Andrew Mayhall, the king of the Empire of Sticky, Mr. Andrew Mayhall of 3D Gloop. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
That was a very enthusiastic, I'm doing great, Andrew. Come on, you can do better than that.
Oh, all right. I'm doing fantastic.
There we
Okay?
go. There we go. Busy is good. Busy is good, my friend. That means money is being made and you're doing your job as an entrepreneur.
I mean, I don't know if money's being made yet, but
Money is exchanging hands.
yeah, that's
It's
a
going
better way to
out.
put
Some
it.
is going in. Hopefully, some is coming in, and hopefully, more is coming in than is going out. Really, that's
Yeah.
all. That's it. That's it. We're done here. That's the secret, guys. More money in than out. Profit. Done. Right. Piece of cake. This is the podcast where we talk about turning your hobby into your jobby. If you're new here, welcome. It's good to have you. We love being able to chat and interact live with you guys. And if you're an old recognizable friend, welcome back. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces in the chat. Mike, Courtney, Filament Stories. A lot of familiar faces. Alex from the UK. We got people from
Hey,
all over the world.
Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah. Whoop,
Yeah.
it got a little blurry there. Hold on a second. We're gonna change this. The autofocus on this. I'm playing with a new camera on my video feed, and
Got some
I
new
love
tech,
I love
eh?
the camera, but it seems like it's having a hard time figuring out which part of my face to focus on or something. So anyway, I just turn off the autofocus because I'm not going anywhere, guys. I'm just gonna sit right here the entire time. It's nice and boring. Generally, it's not an exciting stream to watch, but a lot of people say they like to listen on YouTubes as well. So we figured, why not stream? And we love having the chat. We love getting your questions and your feedback and your comments and your heckling and all of that stuff. So thank you for that. Also, you can find us on all the major podcast platforms you're listening back on as well. Usually that's a little bit delayed on the publication because I am slow and disorganized, but I am well-intentioned, and that is all that I care about right now. Andrew, we're going to jump right in with some wins of the week. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to think about
right.
which win you want to focus on. I'm going to ask our friends in the chat, especially I'm going to single out Miss Vicky, TJW. I know she's been getting more into streaming. I want to hear what your win is, Vicky. And also Karen Chow. I know you've been doing a little more content as well. We get to check in with you guys every week, and everyone else. Tell us in the chat, what is something positive, good that has happened to you in your personal life, in your business life, whatever it may be. But we want to harness that good energy, start on a positive note. And while we're waiting for that feedback to come in, Andrew is going to hit us with a glorious, glorious piece of wonderful news. Right?
All right. Well,
Right.
yeah.
And you're going to pretend to be happy about it. Come on.
Okay. I think win for this week, we let's see. We've passed I think it's 90 gallons of Gloop per month.
That's
in
gallons
production.
of Gloop per
Yeah.
month is a great metric.
90 gallons. Yeah, 90 gallons. Almost 100, not quite, but you know, we're getting there. Maybe next month.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. This is
Yeah.
when you get into the triple digits gallons. I mean, honestly, what is going to be wild is I suspect not in the not too distant future, you're going to be measuring like Gloop per minute, like as some kind of metric, gallons of GGPM, right? Is that a good metric?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah. Tell me.
go ahead.
No. Gallons of glue per minute is, I think, a fantastic metric. What were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I mean one of the funny things that we've been kind of working on internally is keeping track of the bottle counter. So at some point we'll have a thing on our website that's actually up to date to see the number of bottles that are actually being produced or whatever per month or per day.
That'll be so cool. I mean, who doesn't love a good counter, guys? Who wants to see that?
Yeah.
Raise your hand in the chat. I think I think that's fantastic, and who knows, you might make one of those like little ones, because I think you mentioned to me, and I don't know if it's a secret or not, but if you get the new place, if you get into a place and you have a brick and mortar
Hmm.
location, you could have like one of those little mechanical counters,
Yep.
at the front
Oh yeah.
desk or something. That'd be a lot of fun.
Hmm.
All right,
Yep.
let's read some wins in the chat. Let's see. Mandic, really good to see you, Alan, a fellow Alan. It's good to see you, my friend. Let's see. He's been streaming a lot lately. Oh, this wasn't a win, but he's just saying he's streaming a lot lately. And someone called him out on the fact that his streams are effectively him body doubling with 100+ people. That's fun. Courtney has a question for you off the bat, Andrew. She wants to know how many bottles of
Oh boy.
standardized Gloop is that? I'm not
Oh.
sure what she means by standardized Gloop. Maybe
I think she's talking about like our
Gloop.
4-ounce or
Yeah, how many
120
bottles?
milliliter bottles.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, you can think about how many thousands of orders you do in a week or hundreds in a day, and get some sense from that, I suppose. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot. We're just gonna say it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And Alex Gibson says that's 75 UK gallons. So we have some conversion
Oh.
there for you.
Hey, I didn't know the UK also had gallons, but they were different than the US gallons.
Well, they like to do things differently there. So there you go. Let's see. Narca3D says he was busy building a dedicated garage for his farm. He's currently working on running the power, data, and air filtering. Very cool. Very cool. A dedicated garage. I mean, having multiple garages is just luxury, man, and I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. Let's see. Karen Child Designs reached 250, a quarter K. She reached a quarter K YouTube subs this week. Congratulations. I think I have an applause for you here. There it is. There's your applause.
Nice.
Miss Karen Chow. Well done. Aiming for a half K before May. Here's what I'm going to do for you right now, because I'm pretty sure I want to say I sub, but if we don't, we're going to sub right now to Karen Chow, because we support our supporters, don't we? Let's just do a quick search on YouTube. You guys get to be along for the journey. Designs. And then I'll read a couple more wins, and then we'll move on. There she is. Look at that. Boom. Okay. Now you got you're up to 283 already. So, hey, if you guys are following longtime supporter of the stream, go hop on Karen Chow's. Let's see. I'll throw a link in the chat, because I'm that kind, and I'm my own moderator, so I'm allowed to do that. And then you guys can go sub, and we'll get her up to that 500 goal in no time. All right, a couple more wins. What do we got? Let's see. I called Vicky out. Let's see what she's got. She's debating her win of the week. She got a delightful visit with Mitch Cerrone. We love Mitch. Let's see. And got to hear about the new backpack printer. So Mitch has sported a couple of backpack printers, but he's working on a new one for Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival, which is coming up in only a few weeks now. I'll be there. You'll be there. And I think a lot of people in the chat are planning to be there. Let's see. Grant, 3D Musketeers, you going to be there? Mandic, really? You going to be there? I think so. I saw, I was excited. I saw on Twitter this morning that Hendrik of 3D printing community fame, that does a lot of the what is it when you dip it in the electroplating?
Yeah, the electroplating.
Yeah, electroplating fame is going to be at Remurf, which is good. So I hope he brings us a lot of shiny things coming from Germany. So they're coming from all around the world. It's an international event celebrating Rep Rap, and it's a great place. It's in Loveland, Colorado. Shout out to the organizers. They're in year 2, growing. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait.
Yes, it's going to be exciting.
Good. Oh, look at this. We got some more subs coming in. We got some more subs for Karen. That's great. One more win. Alex Gibson sharing his win. He says his win for the week is actually something John Schoen did. He made the sliding portal printer that we discussed at Smurf. Yes, he did.
Oh,
he did. And it is, if you haven't checked that out yet, great video. Our friend over at Proper Printing, John Schoen, the madman from the Netherlands, had an amazing. He spent 3 months on this thing, and he went all in, as he said. So I don't think he did anything but work on this. And he basically built a 3D printer over a hot plate, a grill. I think it was like
It was pretty
an
cool.
electric
Yeah.
griddle. And
Mhm.
he's got multiple gantries on it and some interesting stuff going on. And he calls it the time printer. And don't ask me to explain exactly why, because I forget. But I just remember that point. G-Tech Studio, good to see you. We'll do one more win. They're saying their win of the week. Their Watwa is this year's project is off to a great start. Headed to do a full gamescape for the booth this year. I have to recalculate the budget though to see if you can pull it off. We believe in you. G-Tech, Geek Tech, G3 Tech, Geek Tech.
Yep.
That's
I just call him Ryan.
Awesome. AKA Ryan and his wife, and her name is escaping me. I'm so sorry. But anyway, it's good to have you guys. Okay, I'm going to take my win of the week this week.
Let's do it.
I've been having just a good old time keeping the organization train going. Getting the studio built out in the shop, getting the studio, a new little stream studio built out in the house. Ooh. So I like the idea of having like multiple spots that I can do different things for. So I've got my little sit down and chill green screen area that I do a lot of my calls from. I do this podcast from in my main office, but then I set up a really fun little build studio that's like kind of in my kitchen. I don't know if you guys can relate as makers. But we have limited space, and so we have multi-purpose rooms in the house. So it's not actually the kitchen, but it's like where the kitchen table is, like right adjacent to the kitchen. So, but I put everything on wheels, and I'm working on ceiling mounting everything, and it just feels good to get wires up and out of the way. And one of the things that we've kind of dabbled in the past, but maybe we should dive in as a topic in the future is like, I'm big on workflow these days, like setting up things that minimize the resistance to get started. And there's a lot of those things in our lives, in business and in personal lives. Inertia is a strong force raging against us sometimes. And so coming up with plans that can minimize all the reasons that I don't want to do something is good. And one of the things I've always loved streaming, I like building. I do a lot of this stuff anyway. And I'm like, I may as well just stream it. I know we have a lot of people that do streaming on here. I don't really care if there's a lot of people in the chat or anything, but like if I'm going to be staying around building something anyway, and I've got a good workspace to do it, which I've been building out, why not get on there and do it with friends? I did a couple great streams with our buddy Daniel Modbot earlier in the week, just doing some builds. He's building a Mark IV, and I'm just building along with him, and it's just so much more fun to do it with friends around,
Sure.
So why not? Why not?
Sure. Yeah.
This is the world.
That's fantastic. I wish I had some room for some streaming, but I don't have time either.
I know. Geek Tech, good idea. Work in progress video for the studio. Maybe I'll do a little run through with my camera and stuff. Right now, it's not super exciting. It's like patching holes in walls, picking paint colors. I shuffled the desk around. So and I'm talking about the shop studio right now. I need to do some testing on the internet has been less than reliable for streaming, but I didn't really have a good plan before, so I might need to pay for a little more uplink or something like that if I'm going to actually stream. But it's a good photography, video recording, just workspace in general. And yes, I can do an update video. That could be fun. Mandic, really, Alan's saying he's moved to. You know what, dude? Two Allens need to hop on a stream together and just chill and build something. I'm just gonna throw that out there right now. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I feel like I've got a lot I could learn from. Mandic has got a lot of builds under his belt. There's a lot. This is the thing. I don't claim to be, the Nero 3D, the advanced builders, the Steve builds. Like some of these Voron guys, like are hardcore, and I'm just enough to be dangerous in a lot of things. But I just like goofing off, having fun, and chatting along, and it slows everything down. It takes me a lot longer than I probably need to, but
I mean, you were streaming, upgrading your Prusa to the Mark 3.5 for like 4 or 5 hours.
I know, and now I only went to 3.5. Imagine what it would have been if I went to like a full 4, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was having a great time with it, and like I'd walk off, I'd do something else, like go get a tea or something. So yeah, I'm not known for moving quick. I say I'm known for my levity, not my brevity. So yeah, I don't move very fast. But yeah, if you're looking for speed builds, probably not your guy. But if you want to come and hang out, I think it would be cool to do like a little thing where if people want to just kind of hop on and hop off, I know there've been a lot of streams like that. I know Maker Deck has
Hmm.
an interesting thing where people are just kind of popping in and out and all that stuff. But like I like a little conversation. I like a little back and forth, and
Oh yeah.
if it keeps me going, even if it's really slow on a project, I think that's a win. A lot of it is just like, hey,
Hmm.
it's a good motivation to keep going with other stuff. Okay, the topic of conversation for today. We're 15 minutes in already. A lot of ranting, not ranting, a lot of blathering on. But today, we're going to talk about doing what's right for the business.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
so we talk a lot, Andrew, about like the self-care time and
Oh yes.
making sure that you're doing things that are keeping you happy and excited in the business.
Hmm.
And we're going to flip it
Yep.
this week, right?
Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
that is all good and well, but like everything, we have to stay in balance.
Hmm.
And when we go
Yep.
chasing after too much of the funsies, and there are a lot, by the way, even in business, it's like
Hmm.
there's an
Tons.
event every
Hmm.
week we could go to if we wanted to, and I love going to
Yep.
events. But we don't have the
Hmm.
finances for that. We actually have to be running the business too. We can't be away all the time.
Yep.
And so today we're going to talking about striking that better balance, making the hard decisions, fighting the FOMO, all of those things
Hmm.
so that we can get to a better place. And I think that
Yep.
this was a subject that you wanted to dive in a little bit more because I think it's particularly meaningful to you at this point in your business life. So tell us
Yep.
about that.
No, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, we've had many conversations, offline and, also, on this podcast about some of the growth that Gloop has been experiencing over the past couple months, heck, even now a year,
Yeah.
a little bit more. And it's been an incredible journey. I mean, I never really kind of thought that, it would be picking up as fast as it was. And has been. I mean, every month we're setting record sales, record bottles,
There's
record
a
production.
congratulations.
You know,
We're just cheer, babe. We're here. We're here for you, man. That's
you,
amazing.
you know, it's incredible. It's an incredible feeling. And also at the same time though, it's very taxing. And while we've been good at kind of keeping our feet under ourselves and keep marching on,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's a challenge to figure out what's the right next step. Where do we go from here? Um, so I think really kind of the biggest thing now is as we kind of transition into this new era, of our company, it's focusing on execution and focusing on that scalability and getting to the next call it plateau, of business. Like when we first started, we had a lot more time than we did money.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say we have a lot more money than we do time now, but that balance is certainly shifting. And what we're finding is that the time is becoming increasingly more valuable. And while yes, there's more money coming in, the dollar values that we're spending is going up and up and up.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
now it's just coming down to what's the right balance. What are the things that we need to do to focus on execution? and,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say execution a lot because that's really what it comes down to. In building your business, you want to get to a steady state where you have processes and everything else in place,
Hmm.
that you're able to just continually execute upon.
Yeah.
um
So tell me
you know
about some of the things that you're trying to be better about focusing on, because we use the
yeah.
F word all the time on here, and it is a struggle bus for me. A lot of times we love to squirrel.
Yes.
A lot of us
Yep.
are suffering or flirting
Hmm.
with varying levels of ADHD and whatnot, and so focus is so key to success. What are some of your focal
Yeah.
points that you're working on?
So it might sound a little counterintuitive, but it's really focusing on the mass production of our products. For a while there have been, just by hand processes or other various things that we have done, just to get the product made and out the door. But now it's really starting to try and figure out how we wrap processes around things, and we start documenting, elements of our production, because we're nearing the point where I'm going to be handing off a lot of production to other individuals,
Oof,
and that's going to be, that's going to be a big challenge.
that's an
And
understatement.
so,
Yes.
you know,
Well, no, in,
you
in
know,
multiple fronts too, because I remember it's
Mhm,
not just like the actual laying out of the job description of the things, although that's a big chunk of it. It's also like mentally and
mhm,
emotionally being able to let go of these things, right?
mhm,
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, the biggest thing is really focusing on, making it so that I can stop working in the business and start working on the business. Getting to the point where, having conversations, meaningful conversations with either resellers or retailers, working with influencers or, content creators, and kind of, building out what is the future, of the company, what's the roadmap, those sorts of things. Well, we all have these dreams, or like, oh yeah, I would want to add this new product, or we want to go and do the fun things. There's a lot more planning that comes in, into it, especially when you have a business that's running to provide the cash and the capital and the
Mm-hmm.
resources to make those set new things.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to start thinking about these in different ways.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
y-
What
you
other
know
what other focal points? So obviously, new people coming on.
Mhm,
You're in what I would like to call like the massive like domino structure, where it's like you've got
mhm,
a number of things that are trying to happen to allow you to get to a
yep,
place like all at once, and it's chaos, man. So you're talking
yep,
about a move, right? Because so the dominoes
mhm,
are like you can't really hire people until you have a space to put them in. You can't really get the
yep,
space until you do a build or get a
yeah,
lease or move everything, and so like we're eating
exactly,
elephants. I like to say sometimes, man, I'm
mhm,
so sick of eating elephant, right? But I mean, that is the
mhm,
job as an entrepreneur.
that's it,
And you're
mhm,
gonna, and before long,
yep,
you're gonna be talking about needing to move into a bigger place and all that stuff. But let's not worry about that right now. Yeah, you're
mhm.
like, I just did all this, and now I got to do it all over again. But talk about the order of operations there.
Yeah, I mean, so Gloop started and it has been run up to this day out of my house. And it has taken over the entire house. My wife and I have a bedroom and a kitchen. That's it. Every
Yeah,
other room is dedicated to
yeah,
Gloop.
yeah. Who feels
You
that
know,
in the chat? Who's running their little home business and it's taken over their entire life, and maybe at the sake of the sanity of you and your partner or whatever? I think it's
mhm,
relatable, right? We love to try to do all those
yes,
things. But you're lucky enough, at
yeah,
least where you live in an area where you have basements, and so you'll have a little bit of
mhm,
segregation, but then there's still,
yeah.
it's trickled up into the upstairs and everywhere else, right?
I
It's
mean, we have storage lockers, we have sheds, we have garages. Like
how big is the
we are
property?
spread out.
Like do you have the ability to just throw more
I'm on a
sheds?
quarter acre.
Okay, so
I'm
you
a
could,
quarter acre. I've got
yeah.
2 sheds, and
You already
yeah.
have two sheds. Are there any
I've
rules
got
or
2
anything?
sheds. We've got a giant truck.
Like, could
That's
you
in my
just keep
yard.
throwing tough sheds on the property if you wanted to or whatever? I mean, at some point that's not
Yeah,
practical, but I'm just curious. Yeah,
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 mhm,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so
I think
space.
I'm exceeding my limit.
Okay,
Yeah, so space is big, and then what is really interesting is we are a chemical manufacturer, and with that there are operational procedures and things that we have to do, that are defined by our lovely government.
right.
And that doesn't make it fun to deal with,
Yeah,
because the number of complications and everything else, it's a lot. But part of getting a space, we now have to go through all of our filings. We have to work with cities, we have to work with counties, we have to work with EPA, all sorts of fun stuff. You know, double cross every T, double dot every I, which is, you know, kind of silly, but that's what they make you do.
Double cross every T? When you double cross a T, is it
Yeah.
like you cross the T and then you cross the cross of the T, or are you putting like two
Listen,
towers on that telephone pole?
I'm not really sure. I just know
Hmm.
that we've got to go over it so many times. You know, it's like, oh yeah, here's this form, and then this other form asks for the same damn thing.
That's funny. I want to start doing that. I want to start. I actually like do a weird thing that a lot of people like. I don't know if it's European or Germanic, but like not a lot of people do it. But I cross my sevens. Have you seen that? Where it's like I'll draw a
Oh,
seven
okay,
and then I'll put
yeah.
a cross.
Mhm.
And I got that from my dad
Yeah,
from some reason. And it's
interesting.
always been a habit. But everybody's like, why are you
Yeah.
crossing a seven? And I guess
All
some
right, well,
people do that.
cross your sevens
Cross your
now.
T's, double
Okay.
cross your T's. But I'm gonna start doing that, adding extra dots over my I. You know, like why not, right?
Hmm.
Just to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You double cross. You can't you can't triple stamp a double stamp, Andrew.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh
So
okay.
yeah, so I mean, you know, getting space is, you know, number one priority right now, and then, you know, expanding production capabilities. Like I just mentioned, we're beyond maximum capacity right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, we are really spinning up and driving things super hard just to be able to produce at this level that we're producing at. And it's, you know, it's taxing.
Yeah.
So, you know, being able to, you know, hopefully kind of spin that down a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, is a big priority because, you know, you know, entrepreneurship, you know, you're the founder, you are the most important person in the universe, inside your universe. And you know, it might sound crazy when you have employees or whatever else, but if something happens to you, everything else falls apart.
Yeah.
You know, at least for, you know, the first few years, you know, up until, you know, you have multiple team members that are in executive level or decision making positions. And so, you know, that's kind of, you know, one of the big challenges right now is like, you know, I've everything is riding on me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
It's
so
not
it's got to
it's
get to
not a
the
vanity
point.
thing. It's an important thing I think to say and to realize, and then you make sure you go out and you
Hmm.
tell your employees every day, I am the most important thing here. Don't forget your
Hmm.
place, right? Like that's not
Yeah.
vanity. That's just a fact. We're just
I am the
statement of
king
fact.
of this
You
empire.
will obey me. Yeah, yeah. Obey my
Yeah.
laws. Karen Chow in
Yeah.
the chat has a question. She do you make Gloop in the bathtub? Has it trickled into the bathroom yet?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. That sounds like it'd be a funny little marketing thing, like bathtub Gloop. You know, like that. Maybe keep that in your back pocket for like an April Fool's thing or
Okay.
something. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like
Be
that idea.
I'd like that. You're just bathing in the purple sauce. I mean, I guess it's not really purple. It smells
No.
purple sometimes. I don't know, but maybe that's just me getting dizzy from smelling it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so, you know, to basically continue, you know, I think really, what it comes down to now is we've, you know, in the beginning, we, you know, went to the shows, we went to, you know, events, we tried to put on, you know, nice, you know, a nice presentation for everyone. You know, we liked having a lot of space, we liked doing some really cool projects, all really awesome things.
Right.
And you know, that's, it sounds kind of silly, but that's kind of the fake it till you make it sort of strategy. You know, like we were doing great, like things were growing, you know, it allowed us to do these things, but that is now in this instance become a little bit less important. Because, you know, right now we have an issue with being able to fulfill and stay on top of all of the other business related activities that we need to do to keep everything running. You know, for the longest time, we were at like a 7 to 8 business day lead time. We've gotten that down a little bit. You know, we're now like 3, but still, you know, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's getting to the point where, you know, going to shows, going to events, doing these crazy fun things, while they're cool and they do help, it's actually potentially damaging, you know, the brand and the reputation because we are still not able to execute.
Right.
And so what it comes down to is what is the best situation, or what is the best thing to do for the business right now,
Mm.
in this instance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
really just to focus on getting to that next milestone being so that, we have more capacity, we have more time to do these things. Yeah, it's going to cost a lot more money,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, it's going to allow us to do more with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's we go through these. I think every business will go through these periods of expansion, and not necessarily contraction, but just kind of like, you're going to expand really quickly, and then you're going to have to figure out how to get to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
So your kind of your presence and everything else might slow down. I mean, some of the things that people might notice, we haven't been posting to social media, we haven't done newsletters.
I know, I miss you.
We haven't been adding
Yeah.
we haven't been adding any extra fuel to the fire, if you will. Because we are trying to keep it under a manageable, state.
Well, see, now this is another interesting subject. So I've got two questions for you.
Mhm,
So the first, I'm going to go off of what's just right in front of me, is like, I hear what you're saying, right? You're like, we have no time for
mhm,
marketing and all that stuff. But I've been down that road in
mhm.
the past, and I know that
Oh
when
yes.
you compartmentalize in that way, like a lot of
Mhm,
the marketing you're doing now isn't really paying off for a couple weeks, right? And so if you stop for a
mhm.
while, like you have a delay, right? And so
Yep.
turning off the spigot isn't necessarily always the right thing either. But sometimes I get what you're saying. It's just there's
Yeah.
limited amount of hours in the
Mhm,
day. You can't always do it. So how do
mhm.
you determine like when it's you've gotten to a critical point where you're just like, I don't care. Like
Yep.
we have to stop. And it sounds like you're just, let's let the sales dictate the decision making.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's essentially what it is right now. Is we're listening to the sales, we're listening to the customers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we started getting a lot of feedback, the 7 to 8 day, time, is the customers were willing to wait, but they were starting to get frustrated,
Yeah.
and we totally get it. You can't get it anywhere else. Like, our resellers, we couldn't stock them because we literally could not produce it fast enough to even fulfill our own demand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it created an issue. So it's like, okay, we've got to pull back on a couple things, and we have to focus on getting everything caught back up. And the only way to do that is both to, you know find that midnight oil and start burning it,
Mm-hmm.
and then is, limit sales. I mean, there were times where we would literally just turn off, and all of the products would be out of stock. We wouldn't take any new orders, simply because it was a way of just limiting it so that we can keep everything, controllable. And get to the next thing. I mean, because at some point, we were actually running out of our caps, we were running out of materials, and these
Mm-hmm.
are long lead time items.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
we were just seeing explosive growth. Like, from January to February, we doubled, and then from
Wow.
February to March, we almost doubled again. And so you do 2 rounds of doubling a double. You're doing 4 times as much product that you were doing literally 2 months ago.
That's math, everybody,
So,
right there. Doubling the doubling. What if you double that again?
I mean,
It's exponential, baby.
well, then it's 8 times.
That is why it's called exponential growth.
Yeah. There's limited options, right? Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of dials and levers and switches we can flip and turn and pull. Because
You have
we're
more
still
than
a small team. We're
we're
small.
makers, man. We have
Hmm.
more than
Yeah.
you think. But I know exactly what you mean. A lot of times
Yeah.
those dials and switches and levers are limited by the Mooney, right? And so,
Hmm.
or the people or the time. I mean, time. So that's the
Yep.
thing. I think what an interesting just a rabbit hole, because that's what I do.
Hmm.
Um, a little bit is, if you start thinking about one of the most, we hear the statement that time is one of the most valuable things we have, right?
Hmm.
And you can't make more of it, but there's an exception. There's a catch to that. I would say that you can.
Hmm.
In the world of business, you can make time by hiring more people, right? And
Yep.
that sounds like a stupid, obvious thing to say, but if you
Hmm.
start looking at investing in employees and help in as buying time
Yep.
back, that's a really, really valuable thing. And that's why your employees oftentimes are very, like, one of the most valuable things. They're also going to drive
Exactly.
you absolutely crazy. But having scaled up and realized, and talking to other founders
Mm-hmm.
that have gone up and down and all that stuff, you know, I was saying I'm going through a contraction phase. I'm in the opposite of you, where I was just like, I'm enjoying just having my little zen, like not having to worry about what other people are doing, all that stuff. But at the same time,
Sure.
I have to do it all again, and that was
Mm-hmm.
a sacrifice that I was willing to make. And so a lot of it feels like it's going backwards. I was like, you know, do I really need to be the one that does this? No, but
Mm-hmm.
I want to right now.
Yep.
Anyway, digression. Start looking at
Mm-hmm.
that investment in growth
Yep.
as investment in your time again and sanity, because that is the only way you can really get it back, is
Mm-hmm.
by taking things off of your plate, as we say. um,
Absolutely.
and then I love looking at other things. Like, I do a lot of travel, and so
Mm-hmm.
I will drop a good amount of money on things that save me a lot of time. Doing
Mm-hmm.
TSA pre-check, going global access, like all
Yep.
that stuff. All that adds up, and it's a lot of sanity as well. Like, it's a no-brainer
Mm-hmm.
for me to like pay that $80 for 2 years or whatever, so that I don't
Oh,
have to go and
sure.
take my shoes off and wait in the line,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm always super late getting to the airport anyway and all that stuff. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of little things. We live in a capitalist society, and it is very pay to play. A lot of times that's a lot of really frustrating to a lot of people, you know, to
Mm-hmm.
see that it's like, oh, well, I don't have the money for like that amount of luxury. But in the business world, there is a reason that
Yep.
there is business class, that there is private jets and things like that. Like, at some point, that
Yep.
financial decision becomes
Mm-hmm.
about time and about
Yep.
making, you know, your CEO or whoever your top C-suite, you know, needs to get A to B, and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have the time to do the normal, or don't have the time to plan. And so it
Yep.
seems like a luxury or a ridiculous thing to a lot of people, but it actually makes financial sense at that level.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, well, and, and that's also comes down to, as a maker, we always want to make things ourselves, or we want to do these things, like that, to go through that process.
yeah.
And in many cases, that's actually hindering you from being able to go to the next level. It's good if you're trying to learn and you're trying to master something,
Yeah.
but understand, like, now, if you have a business and you've mastered it, or you now understand that concept, figure out a way to transition that. Like, that's what we're doing, is we're figuring out a way. We're investing time right now and a lot of resources in how do we start mass producing all of these various aspects
Mm-hmm.
of our products more efficiently. That can be vertically integrated. Like, you can come up with ways in which you'll have employees do those things that
Yeah.
you used to be doing.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fair. If you can define it down to a very specific process and a very specific set of rules that anyone can follow, then absolutely. And that's what we're doing right now. It's figuring out, like, hey, when we're ready to pull the trigger and
Yep.
we get these people in, this is the process that everyone's going to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be some changes here or there, but the nice thing is like, I've been able to test a lot of these processes on family members. Like our the family employees, if you will. Wife, mother-in-law, all sorts of stuff. Like, hey, can someone who's never used a computer, can follow these steps to ship and
That's
process our
great.
orders?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if so, like, I know then it's super easy to train someone. I can train a high school student. I can
Mm-hmm.
train,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's, never really experienced working with a computer, even these day and age, where, I can at least get it so that they can do the work that we need.
Right.
And so that's some of those things, is like, we're working on, we're investing in that right now.
And
And
I gotta tell
unfortunately,
you,
again.
I gotta tell you, man, you are one of the best process guys I know. I remember when you came out to Repkord HQ, and you were like, you know, you got to document this, all this stuff, and I'm like, it is just, you're 100% right. It's just one of those things that I've just
Mhm,
like, I just don't, you know, I don't want to do it. I don't like doing it, and so I've avoided
mhm.
it. And boy, did I pay a price. So you are absolutely doing it right. I mean, arguably you might think like you're actually moving a little too slow because you're trying to get a lot of these things done before you can hire, but at the same time you can't hire yet because you don't have the facility, so why not use this time
Yeah.
to make sure you're doing a little bit of process work. But that pays massive dividends. Having been at a point where we just had people, and then I was like floundering for like, okay, what are they going to do, and we didn't have a good process, and it was causing quality control issues and all kinds. There's all these little trickle down effects of not having a good established process. So anyway, kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah, we'll see how it works. I mean, right now it's really it's really high level still, but
well,
you
it
know,
takes
we'll
time
see.
in the trenches, and it takes having a process a lot of the times to get to a better process, because what our process ultimately started as changed once we realized some of the constraints that it created or some of the things that we didn't think of. So, you know, as makers, it's an exploration. It takes some time. It's like when you're reorganizing your room, guys. Like so a lot of times you never nail it the first time. Usually it takes like 3 or 4 maneuverings of furniture and things before I'm like, yes, this is the way that it feels like it's supposed to be. And that's very similar, I think, with these types of process creation.
And that's a very funny thing is we're actually going through that right now, is like laying out production line and equipment and where everything goes, because you know, one of the things that we're working on, you know, this is a little bit of some top secret information that I'll share with the
Ooh,
you know, the
top
viewers
secret.
here. We're in the process right now of getting a building, and you know, this is one of the things that we have to do is basically lay out the production line, the, you know, where specific equipment is, where chemical storage is, because the county and the city needs to know these things for you know, basically fire approval, for safety, you know, all sorts of stuff, security. It's kind of silly in some cases, but you know, and I know for a fact what I'm giving them is going to change in like literally 2 days.
Right. And
you know, because
that's
we've
fine.
never had it
Yeah.
set up in this way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, so getting back to the whole aspect of you know, doing what's best for the business, or when to do what's best for the business.
Keep us on the
You know, we
rails, man.
mentioned
Keep
like
us on the rails. Yeah.
yeah, I'm you know, I'm following the sales, I'm following the customers. You know, and basically just trying to understand and keep my finger on the pulse of, is the wait time okay? We've been experimenting like our nano Gloop products. Right now they're completely out of stock. Some of the things we've been experimenting with is how do we increase our fulfillment capability by limiting the types of products. You know, nano Gloops are great because they're really small.
Right.
They're, you know, in that super impulse buy, it's less than $10. People add them to their bigger bottle orders.
Right.
But that creates a massive slowdown right now because we don't have a lot of space. So when it comes to pick and pack, you know, we're spending a lot more time in picking and packing, and then you know, that's just slowing everything down. So we just like, okay, we're just going to take them out of stock for right now and see how it changes the orders. And it's changed drastically, where now customers are buying 2 or 3 of the larger bottles instead of just one of the bottles and 3 or 4 of the smaller ones. You know, also they're starting to get accustomed to the longer lead time, so they're ordering more ahead of time. And so, you know, then that makes shipping so much easier for us right now in this moment.
Does it. Yeah.
You know,
because that's
single item or
that's really the interesting thing about having like lower price, smaller items. Like the double-edged sword of that is like there's still a limited, or there's still an amount of time that it takes to pack every order, right? And if it's a, whether it's a $5 order, like if something's $100 order, it doesn't take a 20th of the time of the $5, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the time to pack is basically the same, but you're having to stock different packaging. Maybe the process is a little different. The labeling is different. The production is different. So I can relate anecdotally when I was like doing rep box designs and whatnot, and I really push toward BOM simplification. And I always advocate for this, and I'm like, we can do this with one screw, right? Because I was always frustrated at like every kit I was building had like
20
50 different screws, and
screws.
some
Yeah.
of them were like almost obnoxiously like, really, did this one have to be 2 millimeters longer? Like, it's overhanging
The
anyway, it
Versa
doesn't
kit,
matter.
there's
Uh
8, 6, and 10, and 12, and 14 millimeters. It's like, why?
Well, yeah. And it's not just
I get it.
Prusa.
I
It's a
get it.
lot.
But
It's a lot of them. I'm not
no,
picking
I
on
know.
Prusa either, but yes, and there are good reasons a lot of the time too. And when you achieve a certain scale and capacity, and you have that, like, it makes sense, and it
Mhm.
adds a fit and finish to the whole process as well. But I will say, in the case of like what we were doing, it didn't occur to me. It was like, if we cut down, you came out and you pointed out, like, look, you're doing this Chinese menu thing and you're offering like all these different
Mhm.
things. And it was, we'd look at how long it took to pack an order, and it was like, you're reading through, okay, I got to get one of these, I got to get one of these, I got one of these. And it was really slowing things
Mhm.
down. When we just went to like offering, you have a standard and a premium kit. Like, there's two
Mhm.
choices, right?
Yep.
And ultimately, you were advocating for like, let's just do a fully assembled one, which we talked about, but ultimately didn't become practical because it was just more to pack and bigger
Yeah.
packaging and more
Mhm.
damage and stuff. But simplifying as much as you can. And it cut down massively on the amount of time it took us to pack and ship. It required
Yep.
less items to be ordered. It cut down on our support requests because it was less
Mhm.
confusing to people to like do the assembly process, because everything was symmetrical. There was only one screw, so they didn't accidentally grab the wrong screw, put it in, overdrive it,
Oh,
strip
sure.
something, whatever it is. So there's a lot of really great reasons to like keep it, follow that KISS principle as best as you can.
Mhm.
And we've talked about this in the past. We rage against that because we as entrepreneurs like want to like offer, like, oh, we've got all these great ideas, and we
Mhm.
want to capture all the sales we can and appeal to as many people as we have. In the times of high demand, that is so
Mhm.
disruptive, as you're noticing,
Yep.
to your process.
Mhm.
And if people are just happy to get their hands on any of it, I think you mentioned, like, aren't you
Yep.
only doing 120s now? You stopped doing 75s, or are you
So for our
temporarily?
resellers, yeah,
Yeah.
for our resellers, we completely eliminated the 75 milliliter
Mm-hmm.
option, just because it doesn't make sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, even then we told them, it's like, if you want our set our products, it's now 120 milliliter PLA. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only thing we'll sell you,
Mm-hmm.
simply because it's the thing that we're producing the most of,
Yeah.
and I don't have the time to switch over the reactors to do the other formulas. It's just, it's too much. And yeah, we are right now evaluating going to 120 milliliter only,
Mm-hmm.
for the time being, just so we can stay on top of the volume, because of just the number of orders that we're seeing.
Well, and the
So
nice thing is that, again, you're in a good spot where it's like, you don't really have a lot of competitors out there to do what you do. Yeah, you can argue like, you could go get CA glue
mhm,
or whatever, but for what you guys do, you're in a nice spot, and so people are willing to, when demand is high, people are willing to
yep,
compromise quite a bit. So the good news
yep,
is, you don't have to just say we're never selling 75s again. You can just say these are out of stock for right now, and you just focus on
that's
this.
exactly
And if
it.
you want to bring it back and you want to spread that out in the future, you've already got
Mhm.
a lot of that stuff. You can do it.
And so you actually hit on a really interesting point too. Because we are in a place where no one else is really competing with us, like, we have this really cool market advantage. However, if we're not careful and we're not focused on what we're doing, we could easily lose that, because customers are going to be like, why is there no other thing like 3D Gloop? And it makes it more attractive and easier for someone else to say, well, hey, 3D Gloop is onto something. They're doing something, and
Mm-hmm.
people are buying it left and right, but
Right.
they can't even keep up with the demand.
Right.
And that's just a giant red flag for, this is an interesting market. This
Yeah.
is an interesting place to potentially come in and kind of disrupt things further.
Sure.
We have to be careful and mindful
Yeah.
of exactly how long it takes, and exactly how much we ask of our customers.
Yeah.
And like their willingness. Not
Definitely.
saying that there's another competitor on the horizon. It's just, we don't know when that's going to happen. At some point, it probably will, and we need to be prepared for that. And if we're not actively thinking about how we solve these problems today, when they do come, it's going to be much harder for us to figure it out.
Yeah.
Which kind of takes me into the next piece, is that a lot of this is also, for a moment, like, it was very emotional, like for me, like it was
Mm.
frustrating. I was aggravated. It was upsetting
Why?
simply because it was like I can't produce this stuff fast enough, and I felt like I was failing. I felt
Ah.
like I wasn't able to meet up with the demand. Like I missed the signs, the writing on the wall, or whatever. On figuring out,
Mm-hmm.
hey, like
Mm-hmm.
something's happening here. We got to change.
Yeah.
We got to start scaling. And I then realized, it's like, well, wait a second, I can't make decisions off emotions, because if I
Mm.
start doing that, I'm going to start flailing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to you numbers of times about this. Like,
Yeah.
I feel
Stop
like
flailing
in
because I
many
flail.
cases
I'm a flailer.
entrepreneurs
I am way too emotional
in,
sometimes. Yeah.
in many cases entrepreneurs, we have our fingers on the pulse, like so much, and like we react to the ebbs and the flows of our business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
so easy to get emotional or get tied up in those emotions that we're feeling, that can lead
Definitely.
us down a path where we're making wrong decisions. And like evaluating some of our marketing decisions moving forward now. I want to go to all of these shows. I want to go to all of the things. I want to be where all of my friends are. Like, I've become friends with these people. But also at the end of the day, I have to figure out, like, can I actually afford the time to do that? Can I afford the money to do that? All of these costs, or do I need to focus on that execution while
Mm-hmm.
I have that FOMO? And that's a very powerful emotion.
Yeah.
You know,
It really
at the end
is.
of the day, at the end of the day, is that the right move for the business? And in some cases right now, I'm evaluating, there might be some things where I have to say no to, unfortunately, just because at the moment right now, at the either offering or the current status, it's not there.
Yeah.
And I feel like entrepreneurs, we also kind of have the right to be a little bit of a diva in certain aspects, and like, demand certain things. Not that we need to demand per se. It's just, you know, we need to understand what our business needs. And then if those things don't meet that need, just say, listen, it doesn't meet it. And, look at the value there and try and remove the emotion,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple things in the chat I want to point out really quick. Karen Chow mentioned when we were talking about having a big menu of options for people that can actually
Oh,
be
sure.
more confusing to the customer. It creates some analysis paralysis, and that's a really great point. It can slow the purchasing decision process. I know that
Sure.
I used to. I talk about my time as a web developer. I used to work with like a lot of graphic designers, and some of the best designers I saw were really good at presenting a very limited number of choices. Like, this is a job I could never do, because it was like you're always getting these directions, like, can you punch it up a little bit, can you make it a little more zazzy and whatever. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, it feels like as a designer you're aiming at like these weird things that are just so feeling based to the individual, very subjective targets and whatnot. But
Hmm.
but by some of the designers that were like, at most it would be like, do you like this or this, right? Like, give people binary
Hmm.
choices, because when you start giving them too many choices, they want to they want to pick and choose from the best of each, right? I want this from this, and I want this from this, and then you're spending way too many time doing
Yeah.
way too many iterations, and it's distracting, right? So try to come up with
Hmm.
like the ones you're most happy with. Or a lot of times it would be like, it's one. It's like, this is what I am coming
Hmm.
to. Like, you hired me to give you what I think is the best choice for it. And then
Yep.
they would get feedback based on that. And sometimes they had to go back to the drawing board. Sometimes they had to zhuzh it up a little bit. Again, using the
Hmm.
the perfectly meaningless words. But yeah, it's such a fascinating and challenging thing. But it's a really good point that sometimes too many
Hmm.
choices is not a good thing. Um,
Yeah.
what was the other thing I wanted to? Geek Tech pointed out. Said that your conversation. It's I think is you're saying this is interesting. It might be a little hard to
Hmm.
relate to for people that are getting started, because it's
Sure.
not. Having too many orders is not a problem for people that are just getting started. But
Hmm.
if you're moving in the right direction, hopefully, like, this is a tool for you guys to be able to look ahead, to kind of think ahead, to play a little bit of chess with
Yep.
it. This is the analysis that hopefully you're going to be going through down the road as well, and
Hmm.
hopefully you can make better choices and get there faster, learning from our flailing and craziness.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in the early days, on not having enough orders. I mean, there were periods of time where, especially during COVID, it was difficult. Like there were some very lean months, and obviously that changes things quite a bit, and that's where in the different level that your business is on, there's different things that you focus on. One of those things that we focused on was really about having that nice presentable product, having the nice information available, making it as easy as possible for customers to get a hold of us, great
Hmm.
customer
Hmm.
service, those sorts of things. Not saying that we've kind of let those things go, but we've stopped focusing on those, and we understand, like, hey, there's some slip ups here. It's we're gonna get back to it, but it's ways in which we differentiated ourselves from others.
Hmm.
And so it just comes down to at what level you're of the business that you're in at the moment is what you need to focus on. I find myself in this really weird exponential growth phase, which is exhilarating and awesome, but also very stressful at the same
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
I mean, in different ways.
All right, so we've got about 5 minutes to go here before as we're wrapping up. I want to focus on some tools for people. So anybody that's listening and thinking about this again for their business,
Hmm.
um, the tools and the ideas and like maybe some metrics to go by to help their decision making process. So my other question, I mentioned I had two questions for you, and we took a long way around to get to
Hmm.
number two, but and we've kind of touched on it, but the question is why now, right? For a lot of these things, like this is something you've kind of known, but like you felt particularly
Hmm.
inspired right now. I'm like, okay, I got to make the harder
Hmm.
choices. It's time to do grown up. I'm like, I think is it. I'm going to ask you a leading question. Do you feel like
Hmm.
for a long time maybe you were feeling like this demand could have been artificial and you wanted to wait and see if this growth trend was going to continue before you committed to some courses of action that were going to be more expensive?
I mean, a little bit, yeah. I think it's a lot of things. I think for one, I've talked about this before, as well as is trying to master new areas of my life and professional and personal development. Getting more in touch and more in control of what it is that I'm feeling, why it is that I'm feeling this way, and
Hmm,
how I can manage those feelings better.
that's great. So
As I
it's a
mentioned,
personal growth thing as much as it is like
Mhm.
what's right for the business. Interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, as I mentioned earlier, like I was frustrated. I was very frustrated,
Hmm.
and I was frustrated at myself. And then when I actually took a minute to sit down and write down why I was frustrated,
Hmm.
why I was feeling these things, I realized it's like, well, it's not my fault necessarily,
Hmm.
right? There are things that we could always do better,
Hmm.
right? But that's hindsight, and it's always going to be 2020.
Right.
Because you can always evaluate yourself better looking back. But it's like in the moment that I was in these game time decisions, did I try my best to make the best call? And I
Hmm.
feel like I did. There were some areas where I was like, well, you know what, actually, I see where I screwed up and I did not make a good call there. But that's where I learned from it, and I was like, okay, this is why I need to start focusing more on removing those emotions or removing those things that I need, or that I instantly just want to go and do.
Hmm.
And kind of controlling
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a little bit of both. Like, at first, as you were, kind of leading, is making sure growth is not just going to dry up, because we're talking about, okay, hey, we're going to hire employees, we're going to get a building, we're going to do all of these fantastic things that
Hmm.
every
Hmm.
entrepreneur dreams of.
Yeah.
But that also costs a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
lot of money. And so, at some point it's like, okay, well, you know if it dries up, how do you pay for that now?
Yeah.
How do you manage, how do you maintain?
Yeah.
But I think also it was just, um you know in many cases, trying to personally develop a little bit more and understand, like, emotions are not the best way to react to, various aspects of the business,
They're not, but it's really tough to be a robot. I mean, I think part of what was
it is.
been really good, the positive feedback that I get a lot of the time is like my customer service, like people want to interact with me and all of that stuff. And so what makes me, I think as a strength, it can also be a weakness where like I get overly invested in people, I get overly emotional, and so
Hmm.
either having a partner that can like be the yin to your yang a little bit can be a good
Hmm.
strategy, or like I like that you're looking at the personal growth indicator. So indicators is a great word actually for this too, like because I think these are
Hmm.
the tools that we like to give people for again we always disclaim we don't have it all figured out, we're in process here, but I think that if you're trying to look ahead to where you want to be in your business, looking at people that have some indicators, and like I always like when I'm listening to podcasts, I'm looking at people that are beyond me. It's like when you're learning a sport as a kid, if you play against the older brothers, the older siblings, like the people that are better at it, like that
Hmm.
is what levels you up faster. Like my brother was
Hmm.
always way better at sports because I would beat the heck out of him as a kid. He was a better wrestler, he was a better water polo player, all of that stuff, because he
Yeah.
had an older brother, pummeling him endlessly. So sometimes you need to go up. So I'm not trying to rank anybody here. I love
Oh,
having
yeah.
conversations at all levels, but I think it's
Hmm.
always good to try to look ahead. So yeah, I want to be respectful of your time because like I said, we've got some stops here too, but any last indicators, the Grant 3D Musketeers
Hmm.
mentioned like, oh, he super wants like a container, and you mentioned you have space. Like what is it that made you decide that? What was the indicator that said instead of just buying more containers or buying more storage space or more sheds or whatever,
Hmm.
like, because you could go down that path and you could be quite
Hmm.
successful. There are plenty of people that just like run a
There are.
great business out of their shop, right? But that's a personal choice. You're deciding you want to
Mhm.
go
Exactly. It comes down
this
to
other
what
route.
it is that you're looking for. And so, if you're looking for that aspect of being able to be, still in your home and run the business and, operate, then that is, the direction you're going to need to go. Like what I did was I sat down and, I was again trying to figure out why I was feeling frustrated, why I was feeling like I was failing.
Mm,
And I realized it's like, well, the reason why is because I'm spending all of this time, all of this energy, all of this effort trying to keep a mental map of where all of our product are or is, how much inventory we have where I can't physically see it. I have to keep a bunch of different spreadsheets open, and it got to be, like hard to manage. And it's like there's better ways to do this if we can start to try and figure out a way to consolidate.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then from there, it's like, okay, well, realistically, how much space do we need? How much, you start going through this exploration, phase.
Mhm.
And then once you start understanding these things, it's like, well, what is it that I want? And I want to be able to continue to grow this business.
Right.
I want to be able to work on the business, not in the
Right.
business.
Right.
And then, the indicators were really just, will an extra storage locker solve those problems? No,
Mm,
it only makes the problem worse.
mm.
Will an extra container, like, or a trailer or a truck, solve that problem? Again, the
So your
answer
flow,
was
it sounds like
no.
you're flow charting in a lot of cases. It's like, okay, here's the
Yeah.
process, like if this, then that, and you're
Hmm.
going through, and I think that's a great approach to it. So the
Yeah.
combination of that, and Mitch says, to your point, don't discount the therapy part of dealing with
Hmm.
it well too. We've said it before.
That's the biggest piece.
The biggest piece,
Hmm.
I mean, success in the entrepreneurial game is about your ability to have introspection and to know yourself and
Hmm.
to know your business so intimately that you can try to start to objectively look at these things. And it's hard. It's hard to sometimes jump out of your body and take that 10,000-foot view. But the better that you
Hmm.
are able to know what's going to work for you and the key players in your business, like the better you're gonna be. And if
Hmm.
you can be honest about it, like you said, just answering those questions, like, is this actually helping or hurting the business? I mean, that seems like a fundamentally obvious question to ask. Is going to this event going to be better for us or worse for us? Because the time that I'm
And you don't have to like the answer. Like,
right.
that's the important thing. Like, you have to come to terms with not liking the answer.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to go and work on this project. Will that actually help the business? No. And it's like, well, I really want to do it. And like, yeah, it sucks. Sometimes you have to understand, like, there are going to be times where it's going to suck, and you need to let that emotion sit there with you. And and understand, it's like, it's not that you can't do it in the future. It's just right now it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's not the best course of action in the moment.
Yeah. Well, and I teased it when we were talking about it on Twitter, but it's like a lot of this is like learning how to adult, because it's like we have to repress our desires to do things that because they're fun. It's like, yes, I want to do that because it's fun. But we're grown-ups here, and sometimes you have to say no to things that you want to do, even if it's.
And that's not to say that you still can't do those things.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to moderate them and control how much you're doing them.
Yeah.
And so, like, if like there's something that you need to do in order for your own sanity, because again, you are the most important person in the universe inside your business.
Yep.
If you need to do something for yourself, because otherwise you will not be able to continue operating at your level, then do that. Absolutely take care of yourself first, because if you fail, everything else fails.
Well, and that's a great place and a great way to wrap it up, I would think, for wrap it up with a bow. Ladies and gentlemen, that's another episode, season 2, episode 12 of Maker That Money in the can. We have been your happy hosts along the way. I'm glad to see Andrew perked up a bit and got excited as these things. We love doing this podcast because, at least I don't want to speak for you, but it brings me energy and joy in a way, just sharing a part of my Friday morning with all of you. Thank you for joining us. If you're listening back after the fact and you want to join us for some chat and some fun and some shenanigans, please do. We're on YouTube on my channel. That's at Repkord, which I'm pointing on the screen that you're listening to, Repkord on YouTube. Come join us. We'd love to have you. Until then, everybody have a fantastic weekend. Keep racking up those wins, and we will catch you on the next episode. Everyone, so long.
See ya.
Bye-bye.